students, and welcome back. Now we shall see the next process of system development, and that is prototyping. If you can recall, we have done prototyping in the previous class also, but then I will explain to you in detail what is prototyping, its different types, and also its advantages and disadvantages in system development. Alright. First, let us see what is prototyping. Prototyping is the process of building a model of a system. In terms of an information system, prototypes are employed to help system designers build an information system that intuitive and easy to manipulate for end users. Or we can say a prototype is a demo or a system that is built for testing first. Alright. Prototyping is an iterative process that is part of the analysis phase of the system development life cycle. As I've mentioned earlier in the previous video, that prototyping is that process which is mostly part of the analysis phase. It mainly constitutes the contemporary method of requirements determination. Right? Let us see the next point. During the requirements determination portions of the system analysis phase, right, that is the contemporary method, system analysts gather information about the organization's current procedures and business processes related to the proposed information system. In addition, they study the current information system, if there is one, right? And conduct user interviews and collect documentation, that is, collect data, insights, views, and opinions from the users as well as the developer or the people who uses the system, who are involved in a system. This helps the analyst develop an initial set of system requirements. Prototyping can augment this process because it converts these basic yet sometimes intangible specifications into a tangible but limited working model of the desired information system. The user feedback gained from developing a physical system that the users can touch and see facilitates an evaluative response that the analyst can employ to modify the existing requirements as well as developing new ones. Like I've mentioned earlier, the prototyping, which is often used in the analysis phase of system development, mainly influences or mainly concern the collecting of information or data such as the views, opinions, or insights from the users as well as the developers of the system. Alright, and these feedback or data that are gained from the physical system, it can be used to facilitate an evaluative response, or which is also helpful to modify or develop a new system. Prototyping comes in many forms, from low-tech sketches or paper screens known as a PICTIF, from which users and developers can paste controls and objects, to high-tech operational systems using CASE, that is computer-aided software engineering. This case will be done thoroughly alright in the next class or it will be explained in the next video, of fourth generation languages and everywhere in between. Many organizations use multiple prototyping tools. For example, some will use paper in the initial analysis to facilitate concrete user feedback. That is, it will have all the list of the feedbacks from the users. right? And then later develop an operational prototype using fourth generation languages such as Visual Basics during the design stage. Steps of the prototyping model. In most cases, the steps of the prototyping model are as follows. The first one is the new system requirements are defined in as much detail as possible. This usually involves interviewing a number of users representing all the departments or aspects of the existing system. That is to collect the data or the feedbacks from the users of the different departments of a system. A preliminary simple design is created for the new system. Next step is that a first prototype of the new system is constructed from the preliminary design. This is usually a scaled down system and represents an approximation of the characteristics of the final product. Alright. Next step is that the users thoroughly evaluate the first prototype, notes its strengths and weaknesses that needs to be added, and what should be removed. The developer collects and analyze the remarks from the users. Alright, it is the users that will give their opinions regarding the prototype, whether it's the strength or the weaknesses of a particular prototype, and then the developer will collect these views or their feedbacks and then analyze them in order to make the necessary modifications. The first prototype is modified based on the comments supplied by the users, and the second prototype of the new system is constructed or modified. The second prototype is evaluated in the same manner as was the first prototype. We will see in the next slide how this is done. Alright, we will see the steps later on in the illustration in the following slide. Okay, the preceding steps are iterated as many times as necessary until the users are satisfied and the prototype represents the final product desired. The final system is constructed based on the final prototype. Alright, so in order for the final system to be constructed or to be completed and implemented, there will be many prototypes before that. If the first prototype is not satisfactory enough, then a second prototype will be made, or it'll be the modified form of the first prototype. And even if the second prototype is not good enough, then another prototype will be constructed or will be made, and with the necessary modifications. After the prototype has been finally approved, that will become the final prototype, and hence the final prototype will become the final system. The final system is thoroughly evaluated and tested. Routine maintenance is carried out on a continuing basis to prevent large-scale failures and to minimize downtime. Yeah, this is the illustration that I was talking about. That is the prototyping methodology. See, the first one is to identify a problem, and then we'll make the initial requirements. Alright, or the initial requirements will be listed down, and then the prototype will be developed. After developing a prototype, then the prototype will be made to work. Alright, and the prototype will be implemented and used. And if there are problems, then the prototype will be revised and enhanced. Right, again, after it has been revised and enhanced, then the next version of the prototype will be implemented and used again. Alright, If it's okay, if it's satisfactory, then it will be implemented and used as the final system. However, if the prototype is inefficient, it will be converted first to However, if the prototype is inefficient or if there are certain problems again, then it will be revised and enhanced again, and the next version will be implemented. Then, if that prototype is finalized and it is satisfactory, then that prototype will be made final, and hence it will be converted into an operational system. All right. So you can study this illustration, and you will also find this in the textbook recommended to you as a core reading, that is the Modern System Analysis and Design by Jeffrey Hoffer. You can study that book also, read that along with this video and also the PDF material provided to you in Google Classroom. You can study them and you clarify your doubts if you have any. Alright, now let us see the types of prototypes model. There are few types of prototype models that can be implemented by development teams based on their needs. The first one is the rapid throwaway. Right? This method involves exploring ideas by quickly developing a prototype based on preliminary requirements, that is then revised through customer feedback. The name rapid throwaway refers to the fact that each prototype is completely discarded and may not be part of the final product. However, this method of prototyping is very expensive, but it saves the time of the user. Alright. Next we have the evolutionary prototype. This approach uses a continuous working prototype. Okay. It mostly adopts the prototyping methodology. Alright, this is the evolutionary prototyping model. First we have the initial concept, then we have the design and implement initial prototype. As you can see here, the spiral here shows that this step, that is refine prototype until acceptable, this is repetitive. Alright, and after the prototype has been refined, then it will be completed, and then the prototype will be released as the final system. This approach uses a continuous working prototype that is refined after each iteration of customer feedback. Because each prototype is not started from scratch, this method saves time and effort. Okay, next we have the incremental. This technique breaks the concept for the final product into smaller pieces, and prototypes are created for each one. Alright, that means we have different prototypes for different purposes. Alright, after they have been scanned, after they have been revised, then all these smaller pieces will be integrated into the final product. In the end, these prototypes are merged into the final product. Right, next type we have the extreme prototype. This prototype model is used specifically for web development. All web prototypes are built in an HTML format, that is a hypertext markup language format, with a services layer, and are then integrated into the final product. Right, this is the evolutionary prototyping model, and this is the basic prototyping methodology. Next, we have the advantages of the prototyping model. The first advantage is that customers get a say in the product early on, increasing the customer satisfaction. Right, that means every user or customer can give their insights or inputs regarding the prototype, whether they find it satisfactory or not. They have a say on the product. Missing functionality and errors are detected easily. Alright. Prototypes can be reused in future in more complicated projects. It emphasizes team communication and flexible design practices. That means it encourages teamwork in a system, right? Users have a better understanding of how the product works. And the next advantage is that quicker customer feedback provides a better idea of customers' needs, right? If there is any changes that needs to be done or that needs to be carried out, so by introducing the prototype first, then we can make the necessary changes before the final system is implemented. Alright, and then we'll move on to the disadvantages or limitations of the prototyping model. The first limitation is that it is costly in terms of time and money when compared to alternative development methods such as the spiral or waterfall model, since in most cases the prototype is discarded. Just for example, the rapid throwaway prototyping, that is very time consuming and also very costly. Some companies may not see the value in taking this approach, right? Mostly many of the companies or organization will adopt the evolutionary prototyping model. Alright. Additionally, inviting customer feedback so early on in the development cycle may cause problems. Alright. Different customers will have different views and different opinions. There will be so many feedbacks that you cannot adopt each and every feedback. Right. That is why such havoc, there will be chaos or havoc in finalizing a prototype. The next limitation is that there may be an excessive amount of change requests that may be hard to accommodate, right? The excessive amount of feedbacks and insights or inputs from the customer may create a havoc. And the last limitation is that that could arise if after seeing the prototype, the customer demands a quicker final release or becomes uninterested in the product. Right? Then in the next class we shall see the case and case tools, that is computer aided software engineering, and that is all about prototyping. And please, I'll remind you and encourage you to please reach out for clarifications if you have any. Alright, thank you students.